Hey guys, my name is Tito. I make videos on personal finance on my other channel. On this channel, I talk about other things. Like today, when I'll be reviewing the new Nigerian film that received a lot of praise at the Cannes Film Festival earlier this summer, and it even won an award there. My Father's Shadow. Set in military-ruled Nigeria in 1993, a father and his two sons inadvertently embark on a journey of discovery as the walls seem to gradually close in on them in more ways than one. My Father's Shadow is produced by Funbi Ogunbanwo and Wole Davis, and it's directed by Akinola Davies. Now, why I was keen to see this film is not for the reason you think, not because it got lots of buzz at Cannes, but because it was co-written and co-produced by Wole Davis, aka Tech from Show Them Camp. And if you know Wole Davis, professionally anyway, you know that he's a very enterprising guy. Not only is he a member of the hot, rap group Show Them Camp, but he's also been instrumental in Thames crossing over or being an international star now. I think pretty much from when many of us heard about Thames, Wole Davis has been on her team, and the rooms he's been in, the people he's met, that guy is a very brilliant guy, and he's a very resourceful guy, and he's the kind of person that if he gets involved with something, I want to see it if I have the opportunity to see it. Unfortunately, the movie My Father's Shadow came to cinemas yesterday, the 19th of September 2025. I saw it at the cinema. Fun fact, he was actually there in the cinema. I saw it he organized a watch party for some fans, of Shoot 'em Camp and I guess of the movie or something. There are a few of us for different reasons who had the cinema anyway yesterday. And so I saw it on opening day and it was an interesting experience, was an interesting movie. I'm going to get into it, but I just wanted to give you guys a bit of context. I also want to give you guys a few fun facts about this film, My Father's Shadow. First of all, this film won the Caméra award at Cannes Film Festival, and this is an award for the best first feature film presented in one of Cannes' selections. And Caméra d'Or means golden camera in French. The second fun fact about this film is that it was nominated for Un certain regard, which is a certain glance, which is a selection of the Cannes Film Festival's official selection. This selection presents 20 films with unusual styles and non-traditional stories seeking international recognition. The third fun fact about this film is that it's the first Nigerian film to be selected for the Cannes Film Festival's official selection, which is a big deal. And if you're paying attention to the industry and Cannes earlier this year, just a couple of 2-3 months ago, you would have heard that this film created a bit of a buzz. I heard that it got a standing ovation for a good few minutes after it was screened at Cannes. And the final fun fact about this film is that it is available on the streaming platform Mubi. All this trivia and information in the back of your pocket, let's now dive into, first of all, the performances, then what I liked and what I didn't like. Then I'll talk a bit more about what happened when I went to go and see the movie last night. Now, before I get into the performances, let me say that this review will be spoiler free and I'll be quite vague about the plot of this film because I believe for those of you who want to see this film, you will enjoy it more the less you know about the plot of this film. If you haven't seen the trailer yet, don't see the trailer. In fact, I kind of regret showing clips of the trailer earlier on in this review. But the less you know about this film, I think the more you will enjoy it, particularly if you are keen on seeing the film. I didn't get that privilege because I listened to the recent episode of I Said What I Said, and the producers of this film were guests on the episode, and they talked a lot about, they set the stage, or they talked about the plot of the film. And I like to go in to see movies, especially movies that I review, without knowing the plot or just knowing as little as I can. So I feel like I would have enjoyed it more the less I knew about the film when going into the cinema, but it was still an enjoyable watch. So I say all this to say that I'm going to be a bit vague in my description of the performances and the plot of the film. Sope Dirisu plays Folarin, the central character in this film. He's a father, and he's a father that's trying to be there for his children, right? He's trying to be closer to them, and he's doing this against the backdrop of political instability, right, in the country in the early 90s. And this is going to be hard to to avoid certain plot details. This is the backdrop for Folari trying to get closer to his two sons, played by Chibuike Egbo and Godwin Egbo, two young lads who are not professional actors to my understanding. From what was said on the I Said What I Said episode, like where they interviewed the producers, they said they went around the country searching for these two young actors who could be in this film to play the brothers, and they found these two real life brothers to play these characters. So I'm not sure if they're actual like professional child actors. If they're not, that would make sense, because the performances, while they were good, they didn't really give the visual or the feeling of trained professional actors, even though they are children. They work closely in most of their scenes with Sope Dirisu's character, who plays Folarin, their father. And I think what I'm trying to say is that the performances of all three of them, the father and the two sons, they were sufficient given the circumstances, the unique circumstances that came together for this film to be made, and given what's happening in the story. Honestly, hats off to Sope Dirisu, who his performance, he really holds everything together. He's the central character in this film, and he's an emotional character, and he's doing a lot of the heavy lifting in the film and in the storytelling. And I think from all of us who watched it at the cinema, or in my cinema anyway, yesterday, we really did appreciate his performance. And I overheard somebody telling Wole, one of the writers, Wole Davis, that Sope Dirisu really did a great job, that he really tried. Honorable mentions to some supporting actors or performances in this movie. In this film, you have Patrick Diabuah, who's in the movie. Also, Uzoamaka Power is also in the film. Uzoamaka Aniuno, she's changed her name officially to Uzoamaka Power. Slight detour. I googled it, and according to Wikipedia, something she said in a What Kept Me Up interview, saying that the decision was to she feels like she's in her power era or something like that, but also to differentiate herself from the other very popular Uzoamaka, who is an actor here in Nigeria, Uzoamaka Onoha. And I must admit, I myself have made that mistake, because earlier this year they were both nominated for AMVCAs, and I thought both nominations belonged to Uzoamaka Aniuno, but was actually one nomination for Uzoamaka Aniuno, now Uzoamaka Power, and Uzoamaka Onoha. So I can see how people mix them up. So to avoid that, she's changed her name to Uzoamaka Power. I'd been meaning to ask her, but each time I run into her at events or screenings, I forget to ask. But now I know. So she's in the film. She plays an interesting character who works in like a bar. Tosin Adeyemi, my friend, she's also in the film. She's an adorable character. She's I don't want to give away too much, but she looks the part, right? Gregory Ojefuwa is in the film, and he does really well. I think he has more scenes than any of the aforementioned actors, right? He was in at least 3 scenes, and I liked his dynamic. He's a co-worker of Sope Dirisu's character, and I liked his dynamic because it's not the kind of character I've seen Gregory Ojefuwa in a lot of things. He's cast in a lot of things. He's a really good actor. He plays supporting roles a lot. And not that there was anything particularly unique about this character, but it was just a different type of character that I've seen him play. Also, Olarotimi Fakunle is also in the film. The great Olarotimi Fakunle, who plays an energetic character from the past, or who's like an old friend to one of the characters in the movie. So yeah, performances were interesting, right? Like I said, you have the central character and his children, and then you have these supporting characters who kind of pop up along the journey in the film, and that made the film interesting in its own way. So yeah, performances were not too bad. Honestly, they could have been better, but like many other things in this film, things were tempered and measured because of what they were trying to achieve. This film, and I'll talk more about this later, I believe this film was trying to really... It's a Nigerian story. It's kind of like about Nigerian nuances and a Nigerian dynamic, but it's the way it's put together, the way it's filmed, the way the story is told. I believe it's meant to be quite accommodating and understandable for or to a non-Nigerian audience. And there are several dynamics throughout this film and the way the film is made that allude to that, in my opinion. What I liked. Is this what I liked or what I appreciated? Anyway, I liked that this was a simple film at the end of the day. When the movie starts, it feels a bit complex, right? You don't really understand what's going on. But by the time the movie is over, you realize that this was pretty much a simple story and it works. I also liked how they depicted or how they tried their best to depict the early 90s Nigeria or early 90s Lagos, which, especially if you're doing a film set in urban Lagos, is very tough. Imagine going to like the business district of Lagos or any like commercial area of Lagos where there are so many billboards of modern day things and everything, and you're trying to film a movie that's set in the early 90s. It's incredibly tough. But they did their best. They could have done more. They could have done better. For example, it would have been nice to have seen Naira notes from back then, but we didn't get to see that. But they tried their best, right? And I feel like they didn't bother with that so much because it may have distracted from the actual film. Plus, it would have been quite expensive to have really, gone to have done it to that level that people typically expect. Like maybe like the way they date films in Hollywood or the way they do films that are set in a particular time or era. So yeah, given the circumstances, they did a good job. I think that's what I'm saying. I liked how the central theme of this film is about the father and son dynamic, right? You don't see too many films about that. And they pass that message across well. The relationship that fathers have with their sons or their children by extension. What I really liked, and this one isn't just appreciation, this is something that I liked, and I liked it when I saw it. There's a 360 camera movement in the film inside a car. So the camera is in the car, there are people in the car, and then, it starts by looking outside the window, it shows what's happening outside the car, then it looks, shows the people inside the car, goes around, shows the driver, and then shows what's in front of the car. That was brilliant. It was beautiful camera work. It was, while I was watching it, I was like, how did they do this? Where did they place the camera? I really want to know. I really want to know. If I run into anybody that was on the production for this thing, I will ask them that question. But I really love that. That is something that stuck out for me as somebody who appreciates film and looks out for these types of things. What else did I like? I liked the historical elements in this film. They were like historical references, which is important if you're doing a film set in a particular era or a particular time, right? I also liked symbolism. There's lots of use of symbolism in this film with visuals that they show. The sound design wasn't bad either. What I didn't like. Before I get into that, one of my lights is flickering. I need to switch it off. Give me a second. That's much better. What I didn't like, the cutaways and the B-roll in this film, they felt like a lot. It felt like they were fillers, right? Just trying to make the film long enough to be an average or standard feature film. A majority of them had their place in the storytelling, but it took up a lot of runtime, in my opinion. In fact, I found myself wondering, cumulatively, all these cutaways, how much or what percentage of the entire runtime do they take up? Who should see it? See My Father's Shadow if you are a cinephile, right? If you're a movie lover and you have a broad palette in terms of the types of films you see, especially with regards to Nollywood. If it's not just the conventional or contemporary Nollywood films that you watch, then I think you should check this out. If you want to know what the hype and the buzz is about regarding the noise or the praise that this film got a couple of months ago at Cannes, see this film. If you saw Mami Water a couple of years ago, which was another like art house film, you most likely like this as well. They're different films, but in terms of the storytelling style and the fact that it's a thinking man's film, if you appreciated that, you'll appreciate this film as well. I really enjoyed this much more than I enjoyed Mami Water, I must say. If you're just curious and if you're patient and if you like a film that engages the brain, I think you'll enjoy this movie. Another thing that I like about this film that I didn't mention earlier is the fact that this film doesn't spoon feed you. It doesn't coddle you or baby you into showing you the direction of where this film is going. It lets you figure it out on your own. You have to engage your brain while you watch this film. And I liked that about the film. So for cinema goers or movie watchers who they want everything handed to them on a silver platter, they will struggle with this film. In conclusion, let me first rate this before I forget. I rate this film, My Father's Shadow, with 3 jollofs over 5. I want to give it 2.5 jollofs over 5, but I'm giving it 3 because of what it's been able to accomplish and what it may accomplish going forward. This film is not, I don't think it will be eligible for Oscar consideration, especially in the foreign film category, because if I remember correctly, to be considered for a foreign film at the Oscars, the film needs to be in a foreign language, and I don't think there's enough indigenous language in this film to be considered for in that category. But who knows, maybe it could be considered for some other categories, maybe like the writing category or something, right? But my point is, with what Wole and his brother, the director Akinola, and the producers of this film, Funbi, is it Kumbi or Funbi? Funbi Ogunbanwo, and the people involved with this film, I do believe they have big plans for this movie. It's not ending with the cinema. They've done festivals, they're still doing festivals, and with what they have planned and what they're achieving and what they aim to achieve, I think that's why I'm giving them that extra 0.5 to add to my 2.5 to give it 3 jollofs over 5. Now, after I saw the film, I chatted with a few ladies in the reception area of the cinema, one of whom is my good friend Imo Ebo. So apparently, in the same cinema complex, there was a private screening for women organized by the makers of the film, and I think Uzoamaka Power. And so they finished it before us who saw it in the regular theater, who bought tickets or whatever, and maybe also the people who got free tickets based on the Show Them Camp promo thing that Wale did. My point is, after the movie, a group of us were chatting, me and a few ladies. Shout out to them, Essay, who is on the production team, and Desola, who is also on the team promoting the movie and all that, as well as a couple of other ladies. And we talked about the film. And the crux of the matter of our conversation was that it's a good film, but in Nigeria, it's not the average Nigerian's cup of tea, right? It's not what most cinema-going Nigerians are used to, and that's fine. And what the ladies were saying, well, most of them were saying, was that it will take time for us to develop like these indie films and these festival films and develop a proper following or significant enough following for them. Because when you think about the money angle of these things, cinemas, distributors and all that, they want movies that will draw audiences to the cinema, that people will pay to watch, right? And most of those films are not the mentally engaging films or the thinking man's films or those, festival films, right? So it's tricky, but I think the summary of our discussion was that the ecosystem or that niche market it's there, it's here in Nigeria, and we need to keep on putting out films like this so that market can grow. And leaving the cinema yesterday, even up till today, while thinking about the film, I kept on thinking of how this film could be better. Because while watching it, I was like, okay, I get it, but you could have done this, you could have done that. You could have, for example, there could have been more slangs, Nigerian slangs, especially slangs relevant to the early 90s in the film. There was that. They may have put like posters of stars of that era, like Shina Peters, Onyeka Onwenu, King Sunny Ade, even the pop stars of that era. We could have seen a bit of that in the film, but we didn't. And I feel like that would have made the film better, more realistic. But I do get, why is my phone going off? I do understand why they didn't bother with that and certain other things in the making of this film, because while this film is from the Nigerian angle, set against the backdrop of a political situation in the country in the early 90s, while all that is happening and, the focus is Nigeria, I do believe, it's my personal opinion, that the makers of this film were really trying to appeal to a non-Nigerian audience. It's about Nigeria, it's for Nigerians, but I think primarily their target is the non-Nigerian market. Not to mention that, if you watch the trailer, you'll see at the beginning of the trailer, some companies, production companies and distribution companies that are international, like BBC, right? So that said, I feel like they were thinking globally and reaching to a global audience when making this film. And with that decision, certain things were left out intentionally from this film. Because if you put heavy Nigerian nuances in a film, you risk alienating non-Nigerian viewers. And I think they knew this, so they didn't make it too heavy with Nigerian nuances, even though those Nigerian nuances would have made it a richer, more enjoyable, more relatable film for me and other Nigerians. So I understand why they made some of the creative decisions in this film and why certain things were omitted and why they went, because when you watch this film, the way things are portrayed and shown, they really speak to or are reminiscent of how lots of in indie films and festival films that we've seen from the West, how they are made. I think me realizing this is what let me cut some slack for this film. And I'm worried now that I may have said too much, but I think I'm just trying to justify it to myself and also to some of you who have seen the film and have felt a certain type of way about how they approached things in the film, or for those of you who will see the film and will have the same questions that I had as to why they didn't make this film more Nigerian. You know, it's not just for Nigerians. And if you're going to do things for non-Nigerians, you have to temper things and be careful. It's very rarely that you can be 90 to 100% Nigerian in your approach and still capture the global audience. It's tough, and I understand the approach that they took to things. Wow, I've said a lot. Guys, if you enjoyed this review, I'm sorry, first of all, that it was quite long. If you enjoyed the review, please do me a favor and like it by clicking on the like button just underneath the video, and subscribe to this channel as well by clicking on the black subscribe button. On this channel, I don't just do Nollywood movie reviews. Sometimes I talk about other things. So check out some of the past things I've done. You can click the card in the corner of the screen. And I've brought my podcast back. By the time this comes out, an episode of season 4 of my podcast, the 30-minute podcast, should be up. I plan to be regular or consistent with the podcast. New episodes will be dropping every Saturday morning. So please feel free to check that out. It's not about movie stuff. It's about other life stuff. This season on the podcast, I'm going to be focusing on men stuff, right? How men can be better men for society, for themselves, for their families, for their spouses, their girlfriends, all that kind of stuff. And, incidentally, I guess this is a good place to talk about that or to bring that up, seeing as we're talking. I just finished reviewing My Father's Shadow, which is heavily centered around men's issues with regards fathers and sons. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this review didn't end up being 30 minutes. I will catch you guys in the next one. If you've seen My Father's Shadow, let me know what you thought about it in the comment section down below. Catch you guys in the next one.